Thomas, thanks so much for being here today, guys. Let's take a look at what I know you guys. This report just dropped a second ago. You're still
Right.
digesting it right now. Thomas, why don't you go ahead and give us some of the big figures that are coming out with the numbers that literally just came out a couple of minutes ago?
Well, right. I'd say the numbers are pretty hot. The headline revenue and earnings are both better than forecast. Both of those figures include the charges related to China's H20 sales. So really, I think that the numbers are really even hotter than they appear. The guidance is slightly weak, but again, that includes an $8 billion offset to the China restrictions. So I think that's also very very strong. Um, so ultimately, I think it looks like a pretty good report. I mean, the data center business is still doing very well. They've got quite a number of positive updates here in the highlights on the report. So I think that this is a good report, and we should see the stock moving higher now.
Yeah, it's really
And it is.
exciting. It's really, yeah, it's already doing really, really well. Chris, why don't you dive into? We're gonna dive into all of these
Sure.
individual parts from the earnings call a little bit more throughout this video. We'll be live for a while, really diving into what this earnings report means for Nvidia and the market. But Chris, why don't you walk us through what the market is doing right now? We're gonna take a look at the stock chart. I'll pull it up. What Nvidia's stock did earlier today, and what it's
Mhm.
doing right now in the first couple of minutes after those earnings came out.
Sure. So we were talking right before we came on, and so right around 3:30 this afternoon, there was a sharp. I mean, I say a sharp sell-off. The chart makes it look sharper than it was, but certainly there was some selling going into the close. But I think that was, as Thomas and I were talking, I think that was some positioning with investors positioning themselves in expectation that of what the report was going to come in at, and the report's solid. It's a solid report, double beat as pretty much everybody expected them to do. The guidance for the second quarter revenue wise is probably a little lighter than what the street was expecting. But like Thomas said, when you factor in the China costs to that, it's probably a stronger number than what you know. There's probably more strength in the number than the number suggests.
Yeah, very good point,
So it'll
guys.
be,
Let's look at
so
some
yeah,
of
it'll be
the
interesting.
key stats that you were talking about,
Go
Thomas.
ahead.
Go ahead and talk about just the biggest number that stands out to you when you look at just the headlines and a few of the highlights that they've made. Which one is the biggest deal to you, Thomas?
Well, right now the revenue number is looking pretty strong. It's 69% growth. That's fully 300 basis points more than was expected. So definitely in the high end of the analyst range. I think that just kind of highlights the underlying strength of the business. Um, as we've been saying, these numbers do reflect the impact of restrictions on China. So really, the growth is much stronger than what it appears, and the guidance again is the same. Um, you add in that $8 billion of lost revenue, um, and it's really a very good report. So what I'm not seeing in the report is really like a numerical impact to the outlook from these new deals with Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Taiwan, which I think we'll start seeing maybe in the next report. To me, those numbers will more than offset the China impact. So bringing it back around, this is just a very, very strong report.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris, anything that stands out to you? Again, we're going to dive into all of these numbers a little bit more. You're saying it's a good report. What makes it really good to you, Chris?
Um, well, one thing that I know some investors were looking for was to talk about the Blackwell chip, and right in the report they're saying that Blackwell is now in full scale production across for all of the clients. So that's good news. No interruption in production there. That's very strong. I noticed they actually showed a surprising, actually a record revenue in gaming, which was that's not a market that they were
Well, right.
necessarily that they're not necessarily talking about when it comes to Nvidia, but they had a record
Yeah.
3.8 billion in gaming, and then the data center revenue that was up tremendously, and that was obviously a point that the market was going to be looking for very closely because that goes back to confirming what you've heard from Microsoft and Alphabet and Meta in terms of data center demand is still strong and there's going to be investments made in that. So that shows that that's not really slowing down anytime soon.
Right. I was looking at those other numbers too, the other segment numbers. I think
Yeah.
the gaming numbers are really awesome because gaming has been weak.
Right.
Automotive segment's up 72%. That's also very strong. That's one of their new growth avenues. To me, these numbers say that this is more than just the AI story, the data center story, which is still the central story for Nvidia, but with the core business and these other growth segments regaining and gaining traction, I think that the outlook for the year has just been affirmed and possibly even increased.
Right.
That's
One
really
more.
good. Go ahead, Chris.
Go ahead. Bridget. No, one more thing I noticed was that their cash flow dramatically increased, almost doubled from in a year-over-year basis, and they put about 14.1 billion of that to work as far as shareholder equity. So again,
Right.
that was another area that people were going to be looking for to see, are they going to have, what's their cash position like? How are they growing it? And they're growing it.
Well, right. So what I'm
Yeah.
looking at is the cash position, just the straight cash is up $10 billion just
Right.
over the quarter since the end of last year, 23%. We're talking about, what is it, 40? Where did it just go? Like $43 billion. $53.6 billion. I mean, that's quite a bit of money. This puts the company in the ranks of Apple. I mean, Apple has
Right.
always been
Oh,
the
yeah.
best capitalized company on the market, and now I think Nvidia is the best capitalized company on the market.
And like you brought up in your video yesterday, Thomas, the question now is going to be, do you start seeing Nvidia deploying some of that capital in different ways to benefit shareholders, i.e. buybacks or
Right.
or dividend increases? We'll see. That's
I don't see how they can't. I mean, what else are they going to do with it? They've been investing in AI
yeah.
very heavily. I mean, they're spending money. It's not like they
Oh,
haven't been spending money,
oh yeah.
and they're still building the cash pile like so much. So yeah, there'll be some capital return increases, I think, soonish.
Yep.
Very good. Well, a little technical note. Sorry, I realize we're having some audio issues here. I'm working on my best to try and figure out what's causing some of those. So hopefully you can hear us okay. I so appreciate those of you who have tuned in. Again, this is very new for us, so we're working on it right now. Hello to everybody who's come in. We really appreciate you guys. Let us know what your thoughts are on some of the big items that you're watching from today's report. I know a lot of people here joining us are big NVIDIA enthusiasts, much like you, Thomas. So I want you to dive into a little bit more of your prediction that you shared in our preview video yesterday about where you think Nvidia is headed. We'll get a little bit more into how the market is reacting to this earnings report right now because, like you said, it's a pretty sharp drop off right now that we're seeing. So we're going to dive into that in just a minute. But Thomas, go ahead and share a little bit of your bullish outlook on Nvidia.
Well, right. So just up up until the release, the analyst activity was very bullish for their stock. It had kind of cooled off a little bit earlier in the year, not with any downgrades, but there were some price target reductions, just kind of like capping the high end. I would expect to see those targets be reaffirmed, if not lifted. And even if they're just reaffirmed, the consensus is forecasting about a 20% upside. Let's see here. What does it say? About 22% upside with up to 60% at the high end. So I think that this report affirms that outlook. Right now, the market's up 4%. We're above the critical resistance point that I've been watching. If we can hold this level into tomorrow and we see the market open higher, I think that Nvidia stock will probably close the week higher. The question is just when will it set the new high and how quickly it will take or how quickly it will move once the new highs are set.
So we're seeing the opposite of what we've seen the last few earnings reports, and that's
Right.
that the stock is going wild after this good news. Why this time are we seeing good news when in the past we've had good news that led to a stark sell-off? What's different this time?
Well, I think people have been worried about growth slowing for a long time. We've had quite a bit, let's see, shoot, almost a year of consolidation since we hit highs
Right.
the early summer last year. I think the market has been able to move past any fears of the AI bubble not lasting, and now it's ready to start moving higher again. I think that with the analyst forecast and with this report, we get the stock to move above 140 and hold that. We could get some FOMO entering the market, and that could really accelerate this rally.
Yeah. I'm going to get to a couple of our comments coming in here. Thank you guys for staying with us through some of these audio issues and the chart issues. You guys are great. Michael, I'm answering your question. Yes, we are going to go right from our analysis right here directly into the earnings call live. So we'll have that for you here. So you can just stay on this broadcast and listen in on the whole call as well. But let's get to some of the questions that you have. I'm giving you a heart attack. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to make you worry with the wrong information on the chart there.
Right.
But yeah, people are saying volatility in Nvidia. We've seen that this year. There's been a lot of ups and a lot of downs with this stock. What makes you think that we're going to head on that continued uptrend? I mean, do you think we're going to continue to see volatility, or are those 200, even 225 bullish price targets going to be a reality with just straight up from here on out the rest of the year or the rest of the summer?
Right. It won't be straight up. But I think that the uptrend is intact. I think that, as I've said, the consolidation is over. The market's been reassured that the AI bubble is a long-lasting, lingering one. The moves that Trump made over the last few weeks, was it rescinding the AI diffusion rule, allowing these new deals to open up, has opened up many new markets. I think that this Nvidia trend will continue for quite some time.
Yeah, I mean, markets. It's a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason, and that's markets hate uncertainty. And an earnings report like this is giving Nvidia a chance to provide some certainty for investors. Certainly, the worst that investors were factoring in is not coming to pass, and it certainly looks like Nvidia is showing. It's not just delivering this quarter's numbers, but it seems like it's providing a map for investors of this is going to be all right. We're going to navigate through this. And I think that's what investors really need to hear right now, especially as it relates to China. Because, Bridget, it's like to give investors a visual picture, it's kind of like a Venn diagram of, you got the US, you got China or Nvidia, and that spot in the middle where they intersect, that's China. And unfortunately, the US has very different objectives for China than Nvidia does. And that's been playing out in the media. Jensen Huang is basically saying, I want to do business in China. And the United States is going to make that a little bit difficult. But, today we're seeing the roadmap of how maybe they're going to do that. And investors are encouraged by that.
Right. To elaborate on what Chris is saying, that roadmap, giving that longer term vision,
Yep.
investors can now start focusing on that forward valuation I've been talking about.
Right.
Nvidia trades, I think it's like 10x its 2035 earnings estimate. That's ridiculously low. That's like half of what the S&P 500 trades at. So in that outlook, Nvidia stock could rise by at least 100% from its current levels over the next 10 years. And because it has all this earnings growth also priced into it, and it's such a strong company, strong cash flow, the expectation for increased capital returns, it could easily move past that 20x multiple back to its 30x multiple in 2035. And then we're talking about a 200% gain from today's price points.
Right. I mean, think about this. It's probably not as accurate now because the PE's probably moved up with the stock moving up so strongly. But I mean, going into the report, Nvidia was trading at a discount to itself.
Yes, it was absolutely 100%.
So everybody's talking about the PE being elevated, but the stock was trading at a discount to itself. So,
Right. So today it closed at 32x forward earnings today, this year's earnings. And the outlook, just to confirm this, is looking in 2035 is 11.5x. So I was a little bit off. We're still looking at a very solid, nearly triple-digit gain, up to 200% over the next 10 years, just based on simple valuation metrics.
Yeah, I've got the analyst consensus price targets pulled up right now too. And right now we're still looking at 167. That's a 24% upside. The high end of that is 220, which is of course a really good upside for this company, like you were just talking about, Thomas. Anything you want to say about what analysts are saying right now? I think also interested to hear. We've got one commenter who wants to hear what you guys are predicting for a price target tomorrow. Do you expect that rise to happen really quickly, to see a big boost tomorrow too? So I'll let you guys answer both of those questions.
Well, right. As I've proven many times in the past, it's very difficult to predict what's going to happen tomorrow, the next couple of days, because there are a lot of moving parts in the market. There's
Right.
some overhang, there's some short interest, there's some speculators, there's some investors in there. But over time, these good companies, these good stocks trend higher. Nvidia has all the hallmarks of a stock that will continue to trend higher. So I think regardless of what happens tomorrow, investors could be or should be pretty assured, pretty comfortable with the feeling that Nvidia will be trending higher this year, next year, and for the next few years.
Yeah, Chris, anything you want to say about some of the analysts' consensus price targets, the new upgrades we might be getting yet today? I'm seeing the most recent one happen yesterday.
Right. And I don't think you're going to see any come in today. You're probably going to start seeing them come in the morning,
Right.
and then the day after, and that's going to drive the price growth. To be
Right.
honest, I agree with Thomas. It's really, really hard, especially around earnings, to try to speculate on where the stock might be in 24 hours. I can tell investors that it if with Nvidia getting such a strong move right now in the after hours and probably lasting into the pre-market, it wouldn't surprise me if you saw a dip when the market opened tomorrow as the high-speed algorithms kick in and do their thing. But I agree. But ultimately, this is going to be driven by the institutional investors who are looking at this report. And there's just nothing I see in this report, at least on the surface of it, that's not to like.
Right. Because ultimately, the institutions, which own almost all the market, all the stocks that matter,
Right.
they care about the business making money. They don't care about Nvidia being a chip
Right.
stock, being a tech stock, or AI. Only that AI is the thing that's making them money. Nvidia is making money. The cash
Yep.
pile is growing ridiculously fast,
Yep.
and they're going to start paying their investors. So institutions are buying into that, and that's
Yeah,
another factor that will keep the stock moving higher over time.
right, because it's almost impossible. I mean, even if you don't own Nvidia as a standalone stock, it's almost impossible if you're a fund investor that you're not invested in Nvidia. It's the second largest holding in the SPY. It's the second largest holding in the QQQ.
All right.
It's even like the 23rd largest holding in the DG and the Dow. I mean, it's almost impossible that if you're a fund investor, you're not invested in Nvidia. It's
All
so
right. Just as an example of how important cash is to institutions, GameStop,
yeah.
a dubious company, right? So last year they start selling shares, raising money, talking about buying Bitcoin. As
Yep.
soon as that started happening, institutions started buying the stock, right? And
Yep.
they're not buying a lot of it, but they've been buying it at an elevated pace since last year because of the money, right? It's
Yep.
all about the money. Nvidia's making the money, the stock is
Yep.
going higher.
Yep.
Well, guys, I got to interrupt with some questions. We've got a
Sure.
lot to cover in the next couple of minutes before the earnings call starts. It's supposed to go live right at 5 p.m. Eastern. So that's about 10 minutes from now. We will have that call. We will join that call live right on this broadcast. So you don't have to go anywhere. You can stay here and watch all of our NVIDIA earnings call coverage. Let's get to some of the questions. I think you guys already brought up a different stock, GameStop, but people are wondering what you think that this report will impact other chip stocks. SMCI is one that's mentioned. I've seen other people asking about AMD. Thoughts on what will this report mean for other companies in the sector?
Oh, I think it means good things for the entire AI complex. It affirms that AI spending is still robust. Companies still want all of that massive amount of infrastructure, which means they're still expecting all of the massive amounts of software to come afterwards. They're spending on infrastructure. They're going to be spending on development of agents and developing their models. As far as SMCI goes, I think that demand for NVIDIA pretty much equates to demand for SMCI. As far as AMD goes, is an affirmation for the what's that?
I just looked. AMD's up.
Right. It's an affirmation of the entire data center AI
Yep.
infrastructure market. AMD is definitely a niche player, a boutique player, very small second player compared to NVIDIA, but also still a very strong and solid player. Do not count them out. So yeah, just good all the way across the board for the AI complex.
Right. Taiwan 70's up. I just looked at that. So I mean, this is going to be bullish news. This is going to be bullish news for the sector. But I will say one caveat there, Bridget, is it's going to be incumbent upon these other companies, though, to now prove it in their own earnings reports. So the coattails for NVIDIA are going to be nice for the next 24 hours, and then they're going to have to start showing that that they're delivering, and it's not just Nvidia gobbling up the market and then everybody else not having room. But yeah, certainly just right now, just scanning through some of the stocks, yeah, most of them are up.
Well, right. Just you're saying other stocks have to prove it. I'm looking at Salesforce also reported tonight, and they're up on a strong beat. As far as the application of AI, Salesforce is the Nvidia of AI application. I mean, they're the leader. They're well established. They're definitely gaining traction with that. Um,
Yeah, really good advice. Another question we have to talk about was another point that I wanted to get to too, is what the new markets mean for Nvidia. One of the questions was about what do you think with their China business? Do you think that they're going to have a lot of those barriers taken down and be able to expand into that market? We all know the Saudi Arabia market expansion is just getting started, which means there's going to be a lot more demand to come for Nvidia chips, for all of the new build-outs happening outside of the US. There's still build-outs happening here, but really the global build-out is just getting started. What are your thoughts on kind of the future demand for Nvidia?
right. I wouldn't be holding my breath expecting China sales to come back, at least not for another 3 years, 3.5 years. As far as the other deals, Saudi Arabia, I think that those deals more than offset the loss of China. I think that Saudi alone will offset the loss of China. The deal that's already been announced is going to inject multi-billion dollars into the outlook every year. I think that the spending will far exceed what's already been pledged, and that's not counting the upgrade cycle or whatever happens beyond the first 5-year pledge. And then there's other deals too. So I think that China is a blip on the radar.
Well, really good point. How about the other demand? Like you said, we're seeing all these other companies rising their stock prices today too. Why is it such a strong signal for Nvidia right now to have this strong earnings report, to see this big boost in the stock today? It's rising all the other companies. I feel like that signals a really strong summer ahead for the whole sector, but could it go beyond the summer for these other companies too? Could we see all of these other companies rising alongside Nvidia?
Normally, I'd be a little skeptical about summer and stock price growth because it's typically a weaker time in the market. And I also hate to be the person that says this time it's different, but I do think this year that that thesis might be challenged a little bit because we're expecting in the next 30 days, hopefully, to hear more trade deals. We're hoping that the bill that's going through Congress, we're hoping that that's going to cross the finish line early in July. And those are things that could start weighing on the broader market. And of course, Nvidia, because it's one of the biggest stocks in the broader market, it could weigh on that a little bit. So I don't necessarily see this as being, investors shouldn't necessarily see this as being slam dunk that it's just going to keep going, straight up during the summer. It might have some ups and downs, but certainly this is telling you buy on any weakness in this stock because there's, again, the stock is different than the company, and the company might have a little bit of bumpiness with different things, but the stock is fine. There's no reason that investors should be concerned about this at all. Especially, again, Thomas, I'm just still trying to smile. You can see when I look at the cash, the cash is just unbelievable. You're right. It's Apple-esque right
Totally.
now.
They could totally give me $1 billion and I not even notice it.
Right.
Nobody would care except for the shareholders.
Right. Exactly. So this is, Bridget, I think the other point you were trying to go to there was talking about why is Nvidia so well positioned? And I think it's just, it's beyond data centers at this point. The chips are at the core of machine learning, AI, and that's showing up in areas like robotics and autonomous driving and cybersecurity, and just every place that you can see that's going to be a red hot sector as far as technology goes, it's going to require Nvidia products.
Right.
And that if you're a shareholder, that's really the only thing you kind of need to think about. They're going to need your products to do what they do, and you do it in many ways better than the competition's doing it right now. So, go ahead, Thomas.
No, it's the first mover advantage. Not just that they made the GPUs, but they were working on their software and their operating system and their ecosystem for years before AI it was even like the headline
Oh
that
yeah.
it was a few years ago. So they've got a year's advantage. They've been extending that advantage over their competitors. Even while AMD is catching up, they're
Right.
still being left behind. So I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
it's yeah, they're well entrenched. Nvidia is the center of all things AI right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I heard from Dan Ives today. I was listening to some of his, pre-analysis of what to expect today, and he said really bullish outlooks for Nvidia could go up to 225 for this stock, and he said that this company just really has all of the market share, that the competition doesn't really have a leg to stand on here. But I've also heard from other commenters, like on yesterday's video, we had some people saying, well, AMD really is catching up. The technology is getting there, that NVIDIA's CUDA is going to be outdated soon enough, and those sorts of things. What are your thoughts on competition catching up, or does NVIDIA just have that market share secured for years to come? I just wonder, because there's so much quick development in AI, if these other companies might be able to catch up.
I think for them to catch up significantly to really, really take share and really hurt NVIDIA, they will have to make a technological advancement. They will have to distinguish their technology in a way above and beyond what NVIDIA is able to do, where it's like we have to switch from this to that.
Right. I mean, which actually it's interesting because that's where the gaming number really struck me, because if there was one place where AMD seemed to be making inroads there, the gaming sector was one of them, and now it looks like Nvidia is just blowing past that too.
Right.
So yeah.
So all good news. Well, we've got a few other questions. Again, that earnings
Sure.
call is supposed to start in just a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Rarely do they start exactly at 5. So I've got someone standing by to let me know right when that starts so we can get right to that call. But we're just going to talk until then. And we've got some questions coming in about what this is going to mean for some other stocks. One is asking about Qualcomm. Frank, thanks for watching. Asking if this could bring Qualcomm back to life. Any thoughts on that, Chris or Thomas?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't keep up a lot with Qualcomm to be able to make a real educated.
I did notice that Qualcomm is not. It was participating in the rally to start, and now it's faded a little bit. So I don't necessarily know what to make
Right.
of that. I agree with Thomas. Qualcomm's
Yeah.
a stock I don't follow that closely.
Right.
Um,
I think that they've got that.
the story there is with Apple, isn't it? Right? It's the
Well, right. So Nvidia's opening up their NVLink fusion so that other um, CPU makers can link their systems to NVIDIA GPUs, and it's supposed to help increase their ecosystem, and it could possibly be a boost for Qualcomm. But when I was running the numbers the other day, it didn't seem like it was going to be enough to really move the needle for the company.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That there could be a not too many changes coming for that one. Another one I want to get back to. I know you already mentioned this one, Thomas, but let's get back to Salesforce. There were some more questions on where you think that stock is going to go. What are your thoughts on Salesforce?
Well, I like Salesforce. It's a good company. It's well run. It makes plenty of money. It's returning capital. I think that the share price has had a little bit of trouble gaining and sustaining traction for the last year or so. I'm looking at the chart right now. What I see is a nice bottom forming. The market's up. We're confirming support at a critical level. I think that we could see the market rise tomorrow. I think the critical resistance point is right around 290. If we can get above that, the market will probably continue to rise. Let me check in on the analyst consensus and see what they're saying. But ultimately, Salesforce is one of those quality blue chip must have quality companies that's making cash and paying its shareholders. It's still a pretty young dividend payer, a pretty young share repurchaser, but it's gaining traction with that as well, accelerating those things. And those two factors help drive the share price higher over time. Yeah, analysts are looking for a 25% upside. They've trimmed targets over the last few weeks, but I would expect to see that tonight's report lead them to positive revisions, and that'll be a catalyst for the market.
Yeah, very good. I think one thing one of the commenters mentions is that they're just expecting to see a really huge day and a huge week for all of AI over the next couple of days and tomorrow, just to see a big boost in all of the AI sector. Do you think that that's something that we could see coming yet tomorrow, Thomas?
I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but it's not something that I'm expecting myself. Um, Certainly, there'll be some money flowing into Nvidia and the market leaders. I think kind of what Chris was saying earlier is that companies are going to need to prove themselves. There are companies that are making money with AI. They will continue to move higher. There are some companies that are speculated to make money with AI, and they might move higher.
Some really exciting news coming from that call. A few key points to point out are the future of Nvidia, the AI factory potential builds in Europe, like he just mentioned, a lot of excitement around new and up and coming industries. So there's a lot to unpack from that earnings call. You can listen to the whole thing live on MarketBeat or replayed on MarketBeat anytime you want. There's also a transcript, so you can go back and look at some key points that he might have made that you want to go back and listen to. Thank you all so much for all of your comments during today's live. We're going to dive much more into Nvidia earnings and the market's reaction right now. The stock is sticking around just under that 141 mark, so not too big of a move post this earnings. It had that nice little boost, and it's kind of sticking around that 140, 141 range. We'll see what it does tomorrow, and we will break it all down for you here on MarketBeat again tomorrow. Again, make sure to stick around after market close tomorrow. We're going to have a new guest on who's going to give us his analysis of what's going on with Nvidia right now and share 3 stocks that are rising right alongside Nvidia too. So don't miss tomorrow's video too. Thanks again for joining us, everyone, and as always, happy investing.